Deadpool and Wolverine was a flop, a box office failure. That's something we never thought that I would say here on the channel because it made $1.3 billion. It seems insane. How could it be? Why is nobody reporting this? Well, it turns out it's actually true, and it may mean that Marvel is unaffordable for Disney anymore. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Pro Channel. So happy to have you, and happy Thanksgiving week. Today we're talking about Disney and a spending issue that puts Bob Iger in the addict territory. Kevin Feige out of control. The budgets have been blown, and investors need to know about this. It's coming from a very reputable source, aka tax documents. We'll show it to you. Click the like button, and off we go. Well, folks, here we are. A place I never thought we would be. I never thought that we would return to Deadpool and Wolverine, not unless there was a sequel or one of these guys was confirmed to be on the Avengers movies. But here we are again. And the reason we're here is because The Standard, a publication out of the UK, has the UK tax documents for Deadpool and Wolverine. And I can't believe that I'm about to say this to you. I can't believe the words that are about to come out of my mouth. Deadpool and Wolverine was almost certainly a box office flop. Now just sit with that for a minute, because it takes an astounding level of stupidity to have a $1.3 billion box office film lose money. And yet, that's what this is purported to be out of this article. Get ready. Marvel is unaffordable. It says, revealed Disney pockets record 61 million euros of UK taxpayers' cash to make Ryan Reynolds' superhero movie. That's the headline. Okay? And it's from our good friends, Christian Silt and Caroline Reed, both who have been on the Valiant Renegade show. Caroline Reed, of course, is of Forbes, and she's the one that gives ulcers to all of the C-suite at Disney. Get ready for this. Here we go. The government, the UK government, has come under fire after it emerged that a record 60.9 million euros, might be pounds, of taxpayers' cash was handed to Disney.
Yeah, pounds.
Pounds, my apologies. The Brits are going to love me now.
Guys didn't go get pounded by this number.
To film the Ryan Reynolds superhero movie Deadpool and Wolverine in London. It is understood to be this largest sum ever handed to a movie production company in a single year. Okay. Now, how exactly would you get a record-breaking amount in taxpayer refund? By spending a record amount. Let's go down and I'll show you what we've got here. Dan Needle of Tax Policy adds that the current film tax credit rules are clearly important to the film industry, but it's unclear whether they're value for money for the UK as a whole. Got it. Studios filming in the UK get a cash reimbursement of up to 25.5% of the movie they spend there, with a total of $6.4 billion paid out by the HMRC since 2007 to these Hollywood productions. The file accounts which shine a spotlight on the film's finances. The Disney subsidiary behind Deadpool and Wolverine is called Richmond Street Productions. And here's where we get to it, folks. Here's the big one. Its latest accounts, this production company that is only there to exist to make Deadpool and Wolverine, its latest accounts show that by October 31st of 2024, 3 months after the movie was released, here's how much Disney spent. Ignore the budget that you were told. Budget doesn't matter anymore.
Spent in below-the-line expenditures in the UK, not on the movie as a whole, which is even bigger.
£418.1 million. Jonas J. Campbell has already done the conversion for us, and I'm not going to quibble with you about exact numbers because it comes down to which quarter and how much it compared to the dollar in that quarter versus this. Leave it alone. What you need to know is it's above $500 million they spent in the UK to make Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, we estimate, with good reason for doing so, that they spent something like $200 million on marketing. That puts this film at the bottom of possibility, at $700 million in production costs and marketing costs combined. And that means that Deadpool and Wolverine had an obscene $1.4 billion break-even point. Panel, I'm going to go to you now. This is unfathomable. We'll start with Lou, because Lou You know a lot about the industry and the stuff behind this. I don't see how you can spend that kind of money. I don't know how they spent.
Oh, it's easy if you just don't care.
I mean, did they bathe in caviar?
Well, no, because remember, the whole theory behind these subsidies, whether they're in a state in America or in a country across the universe, and the reason why we always concentrate so much on the Brits is that they have full disclosure, other places not so much. The theory is the government says, well, listen, we want to have our industry, the grips and the electricians and the caterers and the equipment rental, and we want them to thrive and we want them to have work. And so what we'll do is give a tax break to companies that come here and employ our local folks. The theory being, if they're working, they've got businesses, their businesses will pay taxes and will come out ahead. It's the same theory whereby companies or entities get deals from states or cities to build stadia, for example. It never, repeat, never in the history of anything has come out to the benefit of the taxpayer. Not ever.
Well, let's just consider beyond the taxpayer. What kind of hubris do you have to have if you're Ryan Reynolds, if you're Kevin Feige, if you're Bob Iger, if you're Alan Bergman? What kind of insanity do you have to be suffering from that you think that you're making a movie that you can safely tell your investors, we're going to make $1.4 billion and beyond? This is one of the biggest movies in the last 2 or 3 years.
They don't tell them. And of course, the applicable expression, especially in the UK, is in for a penny, in for a pound. Once they get started, who's going to say stop in the middle? Ain't going to happen. And as I said before, remember, this number being cited is for below the line goods and people. It is not for the actors. It is not for the director. It's not for all the studio execs. It's not for any of those people. That's all on top of all this before you get to that marketing number that you're adding on.
Well, I'll tell you this. So it doesn't look to me like a particularly special Marvel movie in terms of special effects. It's funny, but special effects wise, it's nothing, it's nothing to write home about. It's nowhere close to, some of the Avengers films. So if they spent $500 million on this just in the production, what is it going to cost for the Avengers? What are they up to? And what do investors need to know if Marvel is this unaffordable? Lauren, how in the world do they think they can be viable if they're spending this kind of money?
Well, they had to get the rights for Like a Prayer.
It was a big deal. Well, they needed Like a Prayer for the box office as well, because they needed, to get the 15% ROI that's expected on these films, they need to get up there to $1.7 billion. This is crazy. And there's no Blu-ray, there's no DVD, there's no secondary market. I mean, there is, but nobody buys them anymore. It's free on Disney Plus. This is a total loss.
I'm actually puzzled by this because, we know that they needed the hit. And like you, I don't see how they ever thought they were going to recoup the investment on this. This is a little bit bizarre. I am wondering, is it because they basically gave Ryan Reynolds control? I don't think that's probably it. But I don't know what I don't know what they were thinking. What
did they spend it on? Again, I don't understand that. There's the CGI is not amazing and spectacular. For example, one of the most expensive movies ever made is The Return of Palpatine. Okay. Yeah. Rise of Palpatine, some call it. I think that's the official name. If you watch that movie, the story's terrible. But by golly, they've got every ship you could ever imagine, at the end of that movie. Spoilers, I hate it for you. But you can see how they spent an insane amount of money and had to get it out at a certain time. And so they spent whatever it took. Got it. Understand. And they did 15 different locations and all that kind of stuff. Didn't work out for them. Yeah, I'm with you on that. But there it is. With Deadpool and Wolverine, I don't understand. I don't understand why they need to spend this kind of money.
That's the point. It takes a lot of CGI to make a desert with a broken Fox logo.
Yeah.
I also wonder how much more did they spend in Vancouver and how much more did they spend in Atlanta? Because it's not just Great Britain and England that the film was made in there. So there's more spending, like Lou said, on top of that figure. And of course, and then there's the marketing, and it's almost bizarre to think about how much money it's Disney has literally lost all sense of fiscal responsibility when it comes to creating content. And yeah, this particular content, it was well received. Deadpool and Wolverine did well at the box office, but to think that it didn't do well enough, even though it made almost $1.4 billion.
Yeah, Ron, that's the point, isn't it? We've all talked about all these movies that sucked that they spent a fortune on. You're thinking, how could they even think this was ever going to make its money back? Even the ones that are hits are flops once you get the numbers.
Right. Here's what I don't understand. A lot of the investment in Disney is by the big companies, BlackRock and Vanguard, and they're putting Disney in people's portfolios, right? And I totally get that, but how do they have confidence in this company when, and obviously, no financial advice, but when you look at a stagnant stock, okay, it's been bumpy, but generally stagnant over the last decade, and they're not growing, they're not producing what they're supposed to. Whether it's the movies not producing flop after flop after flop, or even hit that doesn't make money. I mean, it's you would think that at some point in time, even those companies would say, you know what, maybe we need to back off and sell some of this stock. I don't get it. Obviously that's not a game that I get at all, but it doesn't make any sense to me. And if I'm an investor, I'm certainly not putting money in it.
But with DEI and all their other messaging, they may feel it's not about making money. It's about teaching people a lesson about how they should think and act and believe. And they're willing to do that, especially if somebody else will pick up the bill, just as government agencies were, as long as the taxpayers were picking up the bill. They work by different motivations than us normal folks, but at a certain point.
Clearly.
And what's interesting, as Pro has pointed out recently, quite frequently and accurately, what I would call, in deference to the Overton window, the Lusitan window has moved. Because when you look at the 5-year Disney stock pictures, suddenly the back end of that, where it starts, is getting into those Chapek heights. And so by comparison to those, the fall off in percentage is massive.
The Lusitan window. I love it.
The Lusitan window, folks, yes.
Just a reminder, this article out of the Standard, using the UK tax documents, claims they spent more than $500 million on the production alone. And if this was just any old article, I'd say, nope, that is too far out there. Not going to believe that, not going to buy it. And then you see the names. Christian Silt, Caroline Reed, top pedigree here. They don't put this out there without being right. And I'm telling you right now, if this is how much Disney is exceeding the budgets, this is what you need to understand. This is what the investors need to understand. Andy, they put the budgets out there. The budgets get reported by the Hollywood trades. And then when it's revealed by tax documents, it's insane. It's like the budgets don't matter. It's like Disney has become Congress. They burn those budgets like they're nothing. They're pennies. They're pauper. That's pauper cash to Disney. Andy, how can they? I mean, maybe they got to make $2 billion to get the Avengers Doomsday film to break even. What do you think about this, Andy?
I think this is a gigantic ego contest. I think that they're so all in with getting to be like the messaging, the top dog. It doesn't matter how much money they lose. I think that Disney is betting on things like Marvel, where if they can get it back, they can get into those billion-dollar movies again. And I think they're counting on saving them. And really, they have nothing else but the Hail Mary like that. They've got everything else they've tried has failed. It's different than when it was just Star Wars and Lucasfilm losing, because you had Marvel propping everything up. And one by one, each of their tent poles has fallen. And now I don't know what they have going for them, except for maybe ESPN. The park attendance is down. The The movies are all a bust. They're not selling any product. There's nothing anybody's lining up to buy for a hot Disney item for Christmas. So I think that they're desperate. They're trying to do anything that they can to keep Marvel relevant. And I think in their eyes, as much money as it lost, at least they could chalk it up to, hey, look how many people went to see Deadpool and Wolverine. And in their mind, at least to whoever's financing them, I don't know whether it's Larry Fink, who is really, we know he's promoting a lot of these ideas. And he does the black money, the behind the scenes. Will give you like 0 interest loans through BlackRock and things like that. But that's supplemental. You still need a healthy base. You still need money coming in through the front door and going through the registers. The backside money is good. It can prop things up and it can stabilize things. But your main income has to come from being a popular thing. I think Lou pointed out a few weeks ago with this. It only works to their favor that they're willing to invest that much money into it if it's popular, if people are actually going to see it to get that message. If that vehicle isn't giving the message that they want, they're going to move on to something else because BlackRock does that. But I think it's ego with them. I think it's like they're all trying to be, they're not willing to admit that they did something wrong. And it's kind of across the board. I mean, I think the only one that is sort of has the humility to say like, all right, there was something going wrong here is Zaslav. He's the one that's changed course and adjusted things and took some chances. Everybody else is just kind of doing more of the same. We saw it with the last Alien thing. And Hawley is a talented guy. He's proven that he can write and produce some really good stuff, but it didn't happen with that. And I think that there's too many boxes being checked, and they're still in their club, is what I'm saying. They're still in that vehicle.
They're like an addict, Andy. Maybe it's not. Maybe
Exactly.
Maybe it's like this. Have you ever known somebody who they got a taste of being rich for a while? Somebody who got a really high-paying job. They were very wealthy for 2 or 3 years, and then something happens and they have to cut back, but they can't do it. They can't go back to that lifestyle they had. They have to spend, and it's a problem, and they can't get it out of their head. That's where Marvel is right now. They're living as if it's 2017, 2018, 2019, and they're getting a third of those box office returns. And they're living as if they're going to break, records. And I just don't see it happen anymore.
I would qualify that by saying all those movies you talked about in 17, 18, whatever, if they'd have spent money on those like they're spending here, they wouldn't have made money either.
That's a good point. And who was there stopping them from doing that? Does anybody know?
Ike Perlmutter.
That's right. Ike Perlmutter, who's buddies with the Orange Man. Bob Iger and the rest, they don't like him because of his politics. But Ike Perlmutter was there. And, once he left, we got into the Kevin Feige era, and it hasn't been so pleasant.
Is it his politics, or is it the fact that he was basically a whistleblower saying, you can't do it this way, guys. You can't make money.
Right.
They pretend it's his politics to avoid the fact that he was telling him, he was giving him, especially for Ike, this is funny, a come to Jesus moment about these budgets. And they said, go away. What do you know? You're just a toy seller.
When you go watch Thunderdolts, okay, or Fantastic Four, it doesn't matter if you like the movies, okay? Put that to the side for a minute. Doesn't matter if you like them, doesn't matter if you dislike them. Look at the effects versus Deadpool and Wolverine. And you tell me how it is that Deadpool and Wolverine cost something like 2.5 to 3 times more than those films did in production. The only way that happens is if you just don't care. At that point, they thought, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. And it's too bad for them, so sad that investors now are finding out a year after the movie was out of the box office that from Caroline Reed and again from Christian Silt over at the Standard, that Disney has lost all semblance of standards for their company. Well, folks, we've come to the end of another video of pure excellence and fun, explaining entertainment, keeping you ahead of the culture curve. That's what we hope you believe we've just done. And why should you believe it? Well, because we've done our very best to make it so, to be true, to be factual, and to do what the mainstream so-called access journalists simply won't. Folks, you can help share this out across the fruited plains of YouTube by clicking the like button, share, subscribe, click it, stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. And folks, as we get ready to say sayonara for now, we ask that you keep learning, keep growing, and wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep having fun.